Okay, it's live. It's live. We are finally live streaming. This is the CFR game show Getting Played. I'm sure you all know what this is as you've signed up for it, but I'm going to give you the run through anyways. At the CFR game show, we are going to be talking about real world issues related to climate change through the medium of pop culture. And today's pop culture topic, as I'm sure you, Harry Potter, the beloved children's story, which millions of adults love, which we are going to talk about today. So I'm obliged to tell you that we are going to be participating and interacting with our Discord server, the CFR Discord server. I think a pop-up for that will go up soon. So you can join us there if you want to take part in the fun. You should also check out our website, which is cfrproject.org, and our Instagram page at CFR Project if you want to know more about CFR and the work which we're doing. But today we are only going to talk about the game show, and I am your host for this. My name is Mihir, and I have guests here with me, Abia and Vedant. I'll tell you a bit more about them later. But before all that, I think we should start with our expert guest, which is Prachi. So Prachi, she is the founder of Cool the Globe, which is an app and a movement which aims to essentially organize climate rallies and encourages grassroots action about climate change. She has been involved with numerous companies, helping them with their communication and with climate change as well. Now, Vedant, of course, he is a capitalist, as he wants me to describe him as. Yeah, he's Vedant. Vedant, do you want to say hi?
Hi.
That's Vedant. And we have Abia here, who's like the opposite of Vedant in every single way. Vedant, Abia, do you want to describe yourself?
I co-lead the CFR project, and I'm really excited to be here today.
Continue.
I co-lead the CFR project, and I'm really excited to be here today, participating in the game show.
Yeah, and that is us. I hope that's a good enough description. If you guys have any more questions, of course, we will be answering them on the Discord server and anywhere else. But of course, the first and primary question many of you will be having is, what's the point of this game show, and how is Harry Potter so innocent and so otherworldly? How is that related to climate change? How is that related to the very real problems which we all face and which we all have to deal with? And to answer that, I think it's best that we show you through what we at the CFR project call a tall talk. So it's essentially a video which we're going to play describing an issue or a scenario in context of the Harry Potter universe. And after we show you this tall talk, we are just going to be talking about it. And you can take part in this discussion either on the Zoom call, we'll let you unmute for the last 5 minutes, or on the Zoom chat, or on the Discord server. So without further ado, I think I should play the tall talk. So if you'll give me a second while I figure out how to do this. Is it? I'm going to share. We need his password. We need a password. Technical difficulties, what would a show be? But yeah, okay. All right, I think you guys can see my screen. Okay. All right, now you can hopefully see it. This is how it's going to be, guys. Oh, God. Now can we see it? Yes, we can at long last. Okay, so this is the Tall Talk. And yeah, without further ado, let's play it. The magic in Harry Potter says that if you want to eat lunch, you either need to be prepared to cook it yourself, duplicate food you already have, or steal someone else's. Gamp's law of elemental transfiguration has 5 principal exceptions, of which we only know one. It states that food cannot be created out of nothing. It can only be summoned, transformed, or multiplied. Hagrid crossed manticores and fire crabs to create blast-ended scroots, insane creatures that smelled of rotting fish that when touched. Although we do not know whether he cross-mated them or used magic, it's safe to say that this kind of breeding does exist for animals, even if it's not quite legal. If the same is true for plants, then genetically modified plants are possible in the magical world. So, the question then raised is, how can we genetically modify plants to reduce the impact of the climate crisis? Genetically modified plants are the reason many people are getting food on their plates at all as a result of the climate crisis. Firstly, they have ridiculously high crop yields, which has been essential in combating food shortages in Asia and Africa. Additionally, they are hardier, meaning they can survive temperatures, conditions, and pests which would kill regular plants. Lastly, they are more nutritious, which is essential in combating malnourishment. Maybe we could cross 2 magical plants together. Mandrakes and leaping toadstools could allow the mandrakes to repot themselves, allowing us to grow more of them. Maybe we could cross gillyweed and any other magical plant, so we could grow them underwater. Or maybe we could cross magical plants with non-magical plants. Snowy areas could cross shrivel figs with their crops so that they could be grown in the extreme cold. Although the possibilities are virtually limitless, especially if we consider editing individual plants and their genomes, there are some risks with GMOs which we must be careful about. Firstly, GMOs risk disrupting biodiversity. Some GMOs are harmful to insects and threaten local agriculture. For example, the heirloom tomato was almost completely wiped out by the onset of the red tomato, which was more uniform and therefore easier to transport. Another disadvantage is that GMOs risk making the plants, because there's the possibility that potions made with these plants wouldn't be as effective anymore. Wizards creating GMOs could have so many implications for our world. Diverse food and industry, but the eradication of natural crops. Hagrid's breeding was mostly at a personal scale, and even then the Ministry for Magic wasn't too happy. What happens if wizards practice this at a large scale? We'll leave you to discuss. What impact do you think magically created GMOs could have on the sustainability of agriculture? Okay, so that was the Tall Talk, and it all hinges on one question, and that is, are GMOs good or bad? Are they more good than they are bad, or is it the other way around? So now we're obviously going to talk about this. And if you want to insert your own points, you can put them in the Zoom chat, which I will be reading, the Discord chat, which I will hopefully be reading. And of course, in the last 5 minutes, we're going to open up the discussion to everybody in the Zoom call itself. But to set us off, I think let's start with our guests here. So maybe Vedant, do you want to talk about the Tall Talk and what you thought of it?
Yeah, I think GMOs do present a huge space for innovation in terms of growing food for ourselves, and we can point to other like innovations in the category of agriculture that have helped improve our efficiency, the nutrition we get from our food. Just one example of this is in 1800, 80% of the world's population was farming for food, whereas 4% of today's world population farms for food, if that's correct. And that means that we're freed up to do a lot of other things. So GMOs present a similar type of opportunity. But I think one thing that we must consider on our path to making more efficient and nutritious food is how much will we sacrifice on the path to perfection.
Do you want to elaborate on that? Like what we're going to sacrifice, or?
Yeah, so I think a few things. One is when we deal with always going into a new space, we haven't ever done this type of thing before, at least not in our recorded history. And what that means is we're always creating changes that can either be very beneficial, but we also need to look at it from the standpoint of a pessimist and understand that these changes can be very, very bad for ourselves. And this is what we're putting in our bodies.
So I suppose you're talking about like, I know there's been some controversy over allergies and things like that, which can be with genetic modified plants. Okay, what about you, Abia? What do you?
Also good. I think everything has an inherent risk in it. All innovation, all development has a possibility of, causing problems for people. But if net we are able to kind of create a system where every single person in the world is being able to be fed, or not as many people, like Vedant mentioned, have to work towards farming or creating food. I think overall that would be a positive change for the planet. And honestly, I'm all for it.
So you're saying that by disagreeing with GMOs, Vedant is standing against human progress?
I mean, not exactly, but yeah, in a small way, because food is one of the major things that we
Major
need.
challenges for us, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think that's what sets us apart, definitely, that unlike other species, we don't have to work for our food anymore. And that's what makes us all lazy and
And
That's
free
so
to
bad.
go.
That's what makes us human.
yeah, that's what makes us human. Fair enough.
Right.
Should we turn to our expert guest now? Prachi, you've obviously heard this talk. What are your thoughts on it? Do you agree with Abia or Vedant? Do you have any points of your own?
First of all, I have to say the tall talk was done so brilliantly. I loved the connection. And I loved how you started, that even in a world of magic, the crux of it is that resources are limited. And even in the Harry Potter world, you can't just produce new food. You have to either borrow it or steal it. So I loved the intro. With GMOs, I feel like I'm a bit conflicted. I like the idea of GMOs, not just genetically modified plants, but also, I just read that GMO meat is also coming up, and GMOs have a big role to play in making meat sustainable. So that is exciting to me. And one of the reasons I wanted to work in climate change was also because it bothered me that climate change could mean that more and more people go hungry. So if GMOs can change that, I'm all for it. But I feel like there's also a lot of risky paths lying ahead. If we are going to take our food in our own hands, I feel like there are many pitfalls that we could go into, from potential diseases that could come in to allergies, like you mentioned. So I feel like we could go ahead and explore this area, but we have to be very, very careful and set some good monitoring mechanisms in place. And so I think my answer would be that, a future where GMOs can make meat and farming sustainable is exciting to me. But my biggest issue with it is that a lot of people say GMO food is not tasty at all. So I'm definitely not up for eating bland food in future. So if climate change can, if GMOs can help us beat climate change, but we have to live in a future where food is not tasty, I don't know if that's the future I want to be in. So yeah. They have to figure out how to make it tasty.
Yeah, I think we all agree with you about the tasty food part. I mean, even Abia, would you really live with GMOs if they weren't tasty?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it's that effect is already there. Like, I think in the talk you mentioned about tomatoes.
Yeah.
From what I've heard from my parents and from my grandparents, tomatoes before were way tastier.
Oh, but doesn't that sound a bit like, back in my day, we had good tomatoes. What are these new kids with their bland monstrosities?
That's going to be us with.
No, you are right. But you are right that flavor palettes can change considerably. So I don't know if any of you know this, but there used to be a much tastier banana. In fact, banana candy nowadays is based on a flavor profile of a banana which went nearly extinct during like the 50s because of a disease. And the ones we have nowadays, the Cavendish bananas, they're much hardier, but they're also much less tasty. And that's why banana candy tastes so different from a banana. But yeah, So, okay, should we turn to, is there anyone from, let's check the Discord and from Zoom who might have any viewpoints? And in the meantime, Vedant, Abia, what do you guys, so, okay, we've spoken about how GMOs can be good or bad, like biologically, with regards to natural varieties and taste and allergens. What do you think of them economic and socially? Do you think there's the risk that maybe GMOs could really upset farmers in that sense and therefore indirectly harm the environment? I just want to hear some of your thoughts on that.
I don't know actually. I think that we have way less farmers than we did before the Industrial Revolution. Way less people need to be involved in bringing food to our tables. So I think that overall, it's just a sign of how much we have developed as society. But we've moved past everyone needing to work towards their own food.
Fair enough. I have a viewpoint coming in from the Zoom chat from Ayan saying that in all actuality, GMOs aren't that harmful to consumers and can help the food supply for the world's growing population. In fact, the difference between organic and GMOs are that GMOs speed up the long selective breeding process. And of course, another person said, yes, GMOs. So, okay. Meanwhile, I think Ivan wants to say something, so you can completely just unmute and say it. Or you can put it in the chat.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Hello. So there's, I think it's quite controversial and maybe not that easy to answer this, but I think that will depend on the context. That is really, really important. I can tell you that something that happens with Monsanto, right? So I'm from Mexico, and the main crop that we produce here and that we eat, that is basic for our own food and all of our dishes, it's corn or maize, right? The thing is, Monsanto developed a corn which is a GMO, and it developed a technology which is called Terminator technology, because you have your cornfields. You know that corn is pollinated by air. So from one plant in one patch to the other, the air is going to pollinate it. The thing is, the Terminator technology, what it does is that every plant that it reaches, and it's pollinated by them, became sterile. So they're just going to be able to produce maize once, and then those seeds won't be able to produce any other plant. This goes against the alimentary independence of both of the farmers and also of the country. And the thing is, you can't control air pollination. And well, they do this because they are also going to put a lot of, like, let's say, pesticides, herbicides, stuff that are going to their GMOs are going to withstand this kind of toxicity of their herbicides and not any other plant, right? So they also make people, or in this case farmers, dependent on them indefinitely. Also, they're going to affect the soil. So the thing is, it's really dangerous to put their own kind of crops. Let's say if rice is not one of Mexico's main crops and it's not the center of origin, then it may be fine.
Okay, essentially he was. Okay, I don't think anyone is speaking right now. So let's move on to Trishan. Trishan, you had your hand up for a long time and you've been typing in chat saying, I disagree about your statement. So what do you have to say about this? Trishan, you there? I don't think he is, but okay. Yeah, so
Wanted to ask one interesting question. And then I also love the point that you brought up about farmers and what the impact could be on them. So what I want to ask first is that Greenpeace led many campaigns against GMOs. So what do you guys think about that? And I've always wondered why that is. If you've seen some of their campaigns against GMOs. So that I wanted to know your opinion on that. And with the farmers, I want to share an experience with you. So I run an app called Cool the Globe. And in that, one of the climate actions that we mentioned is to cut down on meat and, the poultry you eat. And we tell people the emissions that they avoid by doing that. And after we launched the app, we launched our video campaigns. One day a farmer messaged me saying that, you tell people to cut down on their meat, but what does that mean for my livelihood? And, in the weeks to come, he sent me many messages. And honestly, I didn't really have an answer for him. But now that you brought it up, I feel like if the same farmers could somehow be transferred to production of GMOs, if those livelihoods could be replaced, if GMOs could create more opportunities for livelihoods, but the same people kind of make a transition there. I think, we would definitely need to think about that also. And, it is relevant, especially for India, because 60 to 70% of our population is still in agriculture. So we would need to think about where they're going to transition. Yes.
Yeah, the job market is a very volatile place. And I think both Vedant and Abhiya normally have lots to say about it. Vedant, do you want to maybe give us like a one sentence soundbite about how farmers are going to be affected by this?
From a capitalist point of view.
Yeah, of course, the capitalist. It's all about the jobs, everyone.
Actually, I wanted to comment on what you said earlier about the GMOs affecting other farmers, and then kind of bring that back. I think this is a part of a larger trend with just climate change generally, about discussing harm towards other groups. And what that encompasses is it's very hard to track down the type of harm. If someone burns down a farm, for example, that's a very easily trackable type of harm that we can say, okay, well, the arsonist is the one who caused damage. But when you've got a multinational conglomerate, which is, I'll admit, trying to silence voices publicly and in the government, and furthermore, they're doing it through chemicals that are transferred through the air, it's a lot harder to pin them down and say, hey, the problem is with you guys. And so I think increased accountability of these groups, and specifically climate-wise, which says when you're dumping stuff into a river, you're actually affecting people maybe hundreds of miles downstream, right?
There was the controversy with Egypt and the Nile when they were trying to build the dam.
Exactly.
So yeah, you're completely correct. I think it's also all about the jobs, as you would say. And effectively, how are the people's livelihoods going to be balanced? So there is a very difficult debate when it comes to GMOs, whether they're good, whether they're bad, because of course they create so many crops. They are so much more nutritious than regular crops. That's a good thing. However, they would reduce the amount of jobs, and they could threaten biodiversity, which, as we know, is quite a bad thing indeed. But for now, I think we're going to have to wrap up this discussion. You can keep talking on the general channels and the Zoom chat if you want. Obviously there were some people we couldn't talk to, obviously, and if we could go through those viewpoints maybe after the game show, that'd be nice for us. So keep putting your thoughts there. But for now, I think it's time we moved on to the first game. So the first game is Family Feud. It's the one which you see on television and on late night shows, which are hosted by very unfunny hosts, completely unlike this one. So I guess we should get started. So here are the rules. I'm just going to read them out loud because I can't memorize a passage, but let's go. Throughout the next 20 minutes, you will be given 10 questions related to the episode's theme. These questions will be sent to your personal team channels on our Discord server. If you've made a team channel, then you'll get the questions there and you can answer there with our interactive bot, which one of our members has spent months working on and has shed many tears, I'm sure, over. But yes, you will then select between 20 options, and your aim is to predict the most popular response to the question. Very similarly to how regular Family Feud works, except in regular Family Feud, you're guessing what the audience predicted. Here, you're guessing what everyone else has picked. So you will be given about 2 minutes for each question, during which you will discuss the options with your teammates. In the meantime, me, Vedant, Abia, and Prachi will try to be funny. And after that, it's your team representative, your team captain's job to select and submit your answer. Should you select the two most popular responses, you will be awarded points. So best of luck to you all. And can we get Family Feud live? Yeah, I'm not sure what happens now. I think we just wait for it to go live. But yes. All right. So we have all of the questions here. Can we start with the first one? I'm going to ask this to the backstage people. I'm going to hope that they are ready, because we are going to start. So the first Family Feud question is, which Harry Potter character would host the best concert? What do you think, Abia? What do you think, Varun? I know you've seen Harry Potter, you've read it, I'm guessing. Vedant, I'm sorry. But yeah, which Harry Potter character do you think would host the best concert?
Sirius Black.
Sirius Black, and why do you think that? Is it just because he's like
It's the
good looking?
hairstyle. It's the
Oh, it's
hairstyle.
the hairstyle. I mean, I would watch a Murderers concert, wouldn't you guys?
No, not really.
Is this where we start a conspiracy theory that, like, I don't know, Selena Gomez is a notorious murderer? Actually, I'm not sure if we can keep going with this joke, just for legal reasons. We might be sued for defamation. So let's move it on quickly. Abia, what do you think?
I think I see Vedant's point. I see it. I mean, he is such a drama queen. I think Sirius Black would have a great
He would
time.
smash the guitar.
He would smash it. But I think I would think that Fred George Weasley would do a better job.
Maybe, yeah, that's a good point.
'Cause-
We're seeing some things in chat as well. We're seeing Cedric Diggory. I quite like that take, actually, because I feel like Cedric Diggory is exactly the type of guy to like learn the piano for 8 years and then bring it up someday,
Oh my,
you know?
Yeah.
that guy.
We've got another person agreeing with Abia and saying Fred. We've got Ivan saying Ron, and another person saying Ginny. All valid points, I'm sure, but we will see who the most popular choice is.
I think someone said Luna. That's interesting. I think I remember this.
You ask them to answer on Discord.
Yeah, you guys answer on the Discord. Don't answer here, because on the Discord, our bot will be able to essentially take your choice and then tally it up and then decide the most popular ones. And that's how you're going to be awarded points. So if you want points, then you should really go to the Discord. I'm hoping you guys have accounts and you've joined. If you've not, go do that quickly. If you want to participate in either the rest of this episode or the other ones, it's just much better if you're on Discord, much better for everyone.
I think someone mentioned Luna. I think.
I disagree with that completely.
No,
What are you
I
on
think it's
about?
interesting. Like, do you remember there was this one part in Harry Potter where Lee Jordan was like kicked out from the commentate? No, wait.
Yeah.
And they put Luna instead. That was so fun.
Yeah, but
But you have to be like
he'd still be-
musically, you know, talented.
I bet she would be that kind of person who would have like talent in singing.
I think she would listen to lo-fi music. Just lo-fi
Yes.
music, nothing
Yes.
else.
But has no one said Voldemort? I feel like it'd be very good for like a dark themed.
Also, it's like
Just
I
like
would-
the
high pitched
screams,
voice, you know. he's
the
got that.
screams of his
Like some
victims,
music.
actors.
I feel
Actors, the
like metal
percussion.
kids would like
Yeah.
Voldemort.
Yeah, that
Like,
is
I
what metal
agree with
is,
his
isn't
vibe,
it?
you
It's just
know.
screaming. I think that
Music
Voldemort
concert.
could be like, Voldemort could be in Metallica.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just imagine Voldemort
Then there
going
would
like,
be so many like,
Master.
there would be so many ethical concerns with supporting Metallica. Like
Okay,
would you want
let's-
to support?
Okay. From
I know a
behind the
number
scenes.
of musicians who look like Voldemort.
Okay, guys, this is a fascinating discussion, but from behind the scenes, I can see all the other members telling me, move on. We can't talk about music all day as much as we would have liked. Otherwise, we'd have made it its own episode, which we were thinking about doing for some time. But okay, The second question, let's have the next question for the people on Discord as well. The second question is, which Harry Potter character would fight in the Battle of Hogwarts, but would run away if they had to babysit Fang? Essentially, who's scared of dogs? Our set is falling apart. But the show must go on, I suppose. So what do you think, Abia, Vedant?
I think Harry Potter.
Really?
Yeah.
Doesn't he like really like animals though? Like he's got the.
He
like,
can talk to
flying-
snakes. He's
Yeah,
not
exactly, he can
scared
talk
of
to
dogs.
See, but let's be real here, right? There's a difference between snakes and dogs.
Remember, what's his name? Buckbeak.
Yeah,
Okay.
see, so Harry has an in with all the really unconventional animals.
Right. So
And then
you're calling a three-head. Oh no, Fang is the.
Fang is the regular.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the answer is obvious. It's like everyone's favorite character. It's Malfoy because
Yes, obviously.
in the first book there
no,
is
but
that.
he didn't fight in the Battle of Hogwarts either.
Oh, that's cool.
That is a very good loophole. Ah.
Okay.
I think Snape would be the kind of person who would be secretly scared of dogs. But I think he
Yeah.
was dead by then, right? Or
No, he wasn't dead. He died like halfway through.
half through.
But
Spoilers, guys.
Maybe he went
Oh,
because he was scared of dogs.
hang on. If you don't want spoilers, why are you watching this stream? This
Yeah,
stream,
exactly.
frankly.
Come on, guys.
Go finish the books and then come here. But okay.
But
Maybe-
then there'll be a bunch of movie people who'll be angry at you in chat now.
Yeah, the movies are not as good as the books. That's my hot take. Actually, it's a very lukewarm take. But let's go to the next question. Which Harry Potter character would do something irresponsible if they won the lottery?
Wrong.
So many.
Here's what I have. Not Fred and George.
I know because I
Because
thought
they-
that was the first stop, and then I was like, no, they
No, no, no.
mentioned do well with the investment.
Because isn't that what, like, so Harry gave them money, right?
Harry
They-
gives
they-
them money and then
They
they
just
turn,
multiplied that.
they make a business empire. It's like,
Like those crypto kids.
yeah, exactly. It's like, what's his name?
It's not the same thing. Crypto is not a real currency.
What's his name? Gary V, that guy on YouTube who does all of his business stuff. They're like the wizarding Gary V. I'm sure there are some crypto people who are really mad at us right now. Let's
Yeah,
look at Zoom
exactly.
chat. No, there's just some guy called Miguel Diaz who is using a lot of emojis. Good for you, Miguel.
Actually, I'm gonna go with again, Sirius Black. He's the type of guy who would just blow all of his money on one thing.
No, but didn't he have, I mean, I think that the fundamental difference is that he was a rich kid.
I don't
Yeah, I know,
think,
but, like,
yeah, but he
wasn't
like
his
hated the
money.
money.
Yeah, but
But-
like, yeah, I mean, you
Exactly.
can hate your parents, still be a rich kid, you know?
He
I
bought-
think
Ron for sure.
Like, well, yeah.
exactly, it's an irresponsible investment.
Yeah, it's
That-
like waste all of it.
Are you saying you want to buy a motorcycle?
I do want to. I want to buy a flying motorcycle. That's what I want to buy.
Fair enough.
I mean, that sounds big.
Consumerism is
It'd
the
be really
capitalist way. I think we should just say it's the capitalist way whenever Vedant. I keep calling you Varun. Whenever Vedant starts talking, because he is the capitalist at the core, to the core. Okay, the next question. Which Harry Potter character would be the perfect hero gone bad villain?
Harry Potter.
I think Hermione.
True.
No, I don't think so. Hermione's
Dumbledore.
morals are too strong.
No,
She
but
chose.
she's got a lot of morals, but like I feel like she's got very strict morals, but they could be strict but bad as well. You know what I mean?
Is that what happens when she like,
Never-
do you know that scene where she shoots birds at Ron?
Yeah, it's like that. Like
Exactly.
she's morally ambiguous, but she does have some certain standards for herself.
No,
Because
but, like even remember the Muffliato spell?
she has to
make
be-
a moral choice.
yeah.
That's a fair enough question.
I actually wanted to say something.
Yeah, Prachi, what do you think?
I think Dumbledore for sure, because in towards
Oh.
the last books, we were definitely thinking he had something sinister going on for Harry.
I think Dumbledore is more like the villain gone hero because he
Ah.
was like Grindelwald's
Oh, yeah.
best friend.
He's got, like,
He
a
was a
ugly
dark
streak.
wizard. And then he's just like really nice.
So he's the villain gone hero gone villain again, maybe.
It's like a parabola, it's a quadratic equation. Any 10th graders, I'm sure they'll be horrified by what I've said. But
Why would you make us go
Oh, all of my offstage
Give
people
you-
are screaming at me. How dare you mention the quadratic? I'm sorry, guys. That's just how it is. Villain to hero to villain. It's a perfect curve. But okay, I think we should roll the next question for the people on Discord and for us, because the next question is, which Harry Potter character would misplace a Deathly Hallow? Who's the most irresponsible?
I think Luna, not because she's the most irresponsible, but she didn't have shoes for a lot of her, like,
I mean, that's because people
Like-
steal them, right?
yeah, but people would, if they could steal her
I think-
shoes, they could like,
I think
I think
Luna
she
would.
comes through when it matters.
I
though.
think
it's
Luna
wrong.
would like, I feel like she'd like release the sword. I mean, not the sword. What am I talking about? I feel like she'd release the wand into the wild or something, you know,
yeah.
like catch and release, get a
Be
hallow, throw it
free.
away. Take the stone, throw it in like a wishing well or something.
I think Hagrid.
Oh, yeah.
that is a
Hagrid.
good, I think Hagrid would definitely. Isn't there something which Hagrid loses at some point?
The Philosopher's Stone,
The
yeah.
Philosopher's
No,
Stone.
he didn't lose it. He just spent the first book
He lost,
practically feeding them information.
yeah,
about what to
he
do.
lost his. I don't know what the word for it is, but he spilled his secrets.
I have the
And he
theory
lose the
that Hagrid
Hallow.
actually wanted them to fix it, and he actually has a thing out for Snape, but he doesn't want to say it because he doesn't want to get fired, right? So he just like throughout the entire book, he's actually the one who's the puppeteer, you know, he's like.
He's like Darth Hagrid, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
You know that theory that Jar Jar Binks is like the Sith
Yeah.
Lord in
There's a lot of
Star
strong
Wars?
evidence for that, by the way.
Fair enough. Okay. Let us, I think we're like halfway through-ish, somewhere around that. Let's move on to the next question, which is, which Harry Potter character is most likely to voluntarily leave the wizarding world?
Arthur Weasley.
Arthur Weasley. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Arthur
I mean-
Weasley. I'm not sure if Arthur Weasley is an option. Can we get some like confirmation on that from the backstage people? You can say it out loud, it's fine.
I'm not sure.
Okay, they're not
Not
sure
sure.
either. No one knows anything. That
Argus Fish, you say?
Arthur Weasley.
Arthur Weasley.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay.
But yeah, also Argus Filch, obviously, Argus Filch.
No, but
Oh,
he
yeah.
was so salty about not having magic.
That's
I know,
why he
but,
would
like,
like to
He
leave.
would like to just
No, no,
disappear.
no, he wanted magic so badly. I don't think that he literally took a position in basically the hub of magical England, which
That
like,
is true.
Hogwarts. I
Yeah,
don't
And
think
there's the
that's-
quick
stupid.
spell thing, the quick spell.
the quick
clause.
Oh,
spell.
yeah, and then he teamed up with the Dark Wizard. I mean, kind of teamed up with the Dark Wizards. Remember that?
With Umbridge.
Umbridge.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
she's
not
Dark
with the
Wizard.
Dark Wizard, but with
She's a
Umbridge,
Dark
yeah.
Wizard.
Um,
Hermione, because she had to erase her parents' memories.
yeah, that is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And
So
send
she
them
might
to
go back
Australia.
home.
Which is, I'm not sure Australia is much safer than the wizarding
Yeah,
world
exactly.
either. Because like, sure, in the wizarding world, you have like a crazy lunatic serial killer, but in Australia, you have big spiders and those are scary.
Exactly. Which one do you think would win? Bald guy or venomous tarantula?
Bald guy or gigantic, hairy, venomous beast. You
Also
know?
wildfires.
I think tarantulas aren't that poisonous. Like they're compared to like normal spiders. So you're more likely to be killed by a normal sized spider than a gigantic
Okay, but they're
sized
freaky.
spider.
Have you ever seen them?
Chinmay in the chat says Neville because then his parents aren't tortured into insanity. I suppose that's one way to interpret the question. I think it's more like which magical person like now would like to leave at the end of, I guess, this during the seventh book or whatever. I think that Hermione's a good shout. I think that Filch is a decent guess, but like Abia said, there are counters. But I think that the obvious winner is Arthur Weasley because that man is just mad. So let's move on to the next question, which is which Harry Potter character is most likely to fake their own death?
Oh, it has to be a drama queen, right?
Harry.
So Sirius Black.
Oh, what's the name?
What's
Rita
his name?
Rita Skeeter.
Peter
Rita Skeeter.
Pettigrew.
Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't.
Peter Pettigrew did fake his own death.
What about Rita Skeeter, right?
No, she wouldn't. She likes the attention to
Oh, no, she would write, she would fake her own death and then she would
She
come back
would write
like 5
about
minutes
it.
later and then she'd be like, I came back from the dead. What do you look at that guy?
Yeah, but that feels
That is
Yeah.
actually, this question is very open-ended because you have Harry who then died and then came back and then
Yeah.
almost died.
He did fake
Um,
his death for a bit, like, remember the way he's like.
Yeah, when he's like lying in Hagrid's arms, he
Yeah,
did do that. There's Pettigrew who actually faked his death in universe. I feel like if that's an option, it's going to be a very popular one. So if you want like save points, just go for that. There's what else? Dorita Skeeter.
feel
I would
Fred and
actually-
George.
No, they're not stupid. I
They
think-
just enjoy their life too much to fake
Yeah.
their death.
I'm hoping that George's death was fake and not real.
Oh,
because
yeah.
that's heartbreaking.
Still wishing.
Fred's death.
I feel like they would conduct like that elaborate prank, about them dying. But
But it's not funny at that point, it's just like, haha, I died, and everybody else is like, what's wrong with you, you psychopath?
yeah, I get that. And they do have a lot of family members. I think,
Oh my
who
God.
really
I had a time turner thrown at me.
mourn their death.
Is this a signal that we're short on time? I'm not sure, but okay.
Move on.
Move on. The next one. Which Harry Potter character is most likely to be from Florida?
Oh, from Florida, oh my God. Okay.
Umbridge.
Moaning Myrtle. Alright, Moaning Myrtle. She's crazy. Don't even say anything to me, she's crazy.
Crazy.
Um,
She's like 40 years old, stuck in like a 12-year-old girl's body.
Okay.
Well, here, hang on. If she's 40, why was she like with Harry?
Oh,
Oh,
that's creepy. Oh,
okay. We can't make these jokes
Okay,
anymore. Everyone aboard.
Yeah, and then there's also like Draco Malfoy. Okay, because hear me out. He just acts really emo, but he's like a drama queen, you know what I mean?
No, all the
Very
blacks,
close.
all the blacks said was drama queen.
I
Look at
think
All the
no, but I don't think this is who's the drama queen. I think this is just who's absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
Dobby.
Umbridge. Dobby's
Oh, yeah.
nice
Rita.
to be.
Sorry, wait.
Oh yeah, Rita.
Wait,
Rita,
Prachi's
Rita
trying to
Skeeter.
say something. Prachi, could you repeat yourself?
I
Because
think it'd be Umbridge. Dobby's too nice to be from Florida. So you need
Dobby's-
someone who's nuts, but also someone who's
who's got bad intentions.
and also the whole Malfoy family, maybe.
Rita.
Rita. No, I don't. Rita is like a good
Who's
writer.
absolutely bonkers in the world. It's just like
Peeves.
Luna.
You know,
Luna.
Peeves would fake his own death. Peeves would fake
Peeves
his
would
own
fake his own death as well. Yeah.
that one guy in Harry Potter, Daedalus Diggle, was that his name? He kept like saying hi to Harry.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah, maybe him. Okay, we have two more questions left. Let's go with them. Which Harry Potter character is most likely to have a reality show about them?
Harry Potter.
Yeah,
Well,
this question is fairly obvious. Who wrote this? Everyone who wrote this question should be ashamed of themselves because that is far too obvious. Oh, it was you.
No, I didn't write that question. I was involved.
Draco Malfoy, fair enough. Rita Skeeter, again, I would watch that show, absolutely.
Gilderoy, someone said
Oh,
Gilderoy
Lockhart. Sarah said that.
Yes. Oh, we did for. I forgot.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure if he's an option, but if he is, that is
That is the perfect option. I think.
perfect.
Yeah.
No,
The
watch-
games that they had where Cedric was a participant, that was kind of like a reality show.
The
That's
Triwizard, maybe. So maybe like Harry, Cedric, and
Oh,
Yeah,
Victor
there's
Crumb and Fleur.
Victor Crumb.
Like,
I don't think Victor Crumb would have one. Fleur, maybe.
yeah.
But I kind of want to get back to the Gilderoy Lockhart thing because you said you would watch it.
I would, it's like, the kind of like morbid pleasure you get from just watching people who are just so unlike yourself.
I feel like that's a front. I feel like it's actually because he's described as being really attractive, you know?
Yeah. I
Uh,
agree.
What are you trying to say me? Like people watch things like Keeping Up with the Kardashians and stuff.
Oh my
Like
god.
But would
Didn't
you
come-
watch it is the question.
I would watch it. I feel like
Fair
that's,
enough.
that's
Like
the kind
make
of,
fun of it.
yeah,
Yeah. that
that's the
makes
kind of
sense.
trashy stuff I would really enjoy.
So you would support someone who's like complete fraud, is what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, for sure.
You were surprisingly upfront about that. Let's move on. The last question of the Family Feud game. Which Harry Potter character is most likely to become a philanthropist?
Oh.
Oh, we're really getting into like this like
Gilderoy
depressing-
Lockhart for the attention.
No.
I
Hermione
yeah,
is my
but
thought
she
too.
spends a lot of time, I'm not sure the philanthropist exactly, like, I don't think she'd be monetarily supporting people, but I think she definitely has her causes.
Who's like wealthy?
Draco.
Draco's dad, what's his name? Lucius.
Lucius.
Yeah, Lucius would be a philanthropist. Again,
Oh,
he
yeah,
like
yeah.
uses money. He's like a
Yeah.
billionaire philanthropist. I would say.
He was a philanthropist.
But like
Did he like donate a lot of money?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
he
He
part
did
of
it.
prison?
He did it so that he could gain power in the ministry, which I'm
Isn't
not sure
that
if
a
that
lot of
makes you a
philanthropism, though?
philanthropist.
Isn't that,
There is a lot of
Mm.
philanthropy.
Like,
Are we
even
gonna
Bill
be a
Gates said,
purist about this?
Bill Gates said
I
that.
mean,
his
is
plan
it
is to
about the
use
intentions or is it about the, right? Like,
money.
I think this is one of the most fascinating questions, honestly, because there's just so many interpretations, so many answers. But we will leave the people in the chat, I mean, in the server to decide who they thought was the philanthropist, as with all of the other questions. So in the meantime, we are okay, we're gonna keep talking for a bit while the results and everything comes together. But after that, we are going to move on. So okay, let's continue with the, okay, I'm getting the signal that we can move on now. No, I'm getting the signal that we should stall. Could you be clear about this?
I'm trying to manage a good server.
Oh God, is it going well? Is there some discourse in general? Let's read some messages from general chat. We've got game show Pog. Thank you, Yuvraj. Very insightful. We've got Hey from from 6914. Nice. We've got a few answers, but we don't know what the questions are for. So they're a bit useless in general. But okay, we are getting news that we have got the leaderboards in announcements for which option was chosen the most. So yeah. Okay, let's scroll up. So should we go through each of these questions in turn? I don't want to do that because I can hardly remember them. We can just look at the leaderboards and get an idea for who the forgotten characters were, the ones who weren't selected for anything. We've got the sorting hat, I think, who nobody has voted for anything, which is slightly sad. But obviously the options keep changing for every question. So there are lots of things to choose from there. Of course, we have most of the characters who are not chosen, but that's fine, whatever. So yeah, I think we're just getting the final results in for the last question. Are those ones out?
No, they're still coming in.
They're still coming in, and after that, we should know who's winning, right?
No, we want to do some suspense. Winners will be found out later.
We will find out who the winners are later. It's a bit like that part in Deathly Hallows where they just made you wait and watch a whole other movie before you could figure out who won. It's just like, I just want to see Voldemort die. Come on. But in the meantime, just give me a
yeah,
second
but at
here.
least it was better than Divergent, where they announced another movie,
Or
but then
Hobbit.
the movie never happened.
Hobbit, where they divided the entire thing
Into three movies. It was a very short book. It did not need
And then
that.
they divided the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy into 3 movies as well. That's like a crime. Come on.
I mean, The Lord of the Rings is fine. I can accept that, but then The Hobbit.
I know, it's just like you're giving the same weightage to Lord of the Rings as the Hobbit. That's kind of messed up.
Yeah. In the meantime, Chinmay is saying that Harry gave Fred and George money for his joke shop. Your thoughts? I think that was the basis for us saying that Fred and George would be extremely responsible by winning the lottery. That's why they'd be like the crypto kids. Although that is not
But-
very responsible. We do not condone that. No, you can buy the CFR NFT when it comes
Oh my
out.
God.
We're not releasing that, don't worry. But okay, I think it's time we moved on to the next thing in our itinerary, which is the next tall talk. So if you give me a second, I'm going to struggle with sharing things in Zoom again. Hopefully this will go a bit better than last time, but you never know, do you? So just give me a second. And hopefully you can see it. Can you see my screen?
No?
Lovely.
Very nice.
What?
Very nice to just start now.
Can you come here and do it, Mr. Tech Support? We have tech support, everyone. It's okay. Never fear.
Never fear, tech support is here.
Oh, come on, tech support. Okay, lovely. And without further ado, let's look at the second tall talk. The wizarding world of Harry Potter is incredibly vast. Spanning across 13 books and 11 movies, we have been introduced to a wide variety of people, places, and most importantly for today's discussion, magical creatures. As the series continues, We observe wizards looking down upon non-wizards, such as muggles, house elves, werewolves, and giants. This is made clear when Remus Lupin, a werewolf, is fired from his teaching position at Hogwarts because of mass outrage from parents at his condition. This is furthered when Madame Maxime, the half-giant headmistress of Beauxbaton, refuses to admit her parentage, fearing such treatment. This is despite them, for the most part, being non-threatening and able to communicate fluently. According to an extract from Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, all magical creatures come under either being or beast. The definitions of these two terms and the creatures which come under them have been subject to debate for centuries. Those who come under being are meant to be the ones drafting important laws and taking important decisions for the magical community. Yet, the Ministry for Magic is essentially run by witches and wizards. To our knowledge, there has never been a non-wizard Minister for Magic, and because bureaucracy in the magical world works similarly to ours, this means that there are large populations unrepresented in decision-making. This allows the legal mistreatment of creatures like goblins and house elves to continue. Not to mention that these creatures would be the ones most impacted by environmental issues. The merpeople, for example, reside in the murky depths of lakes and oceans, and they would have to deal with the ever-increasing amounts of garbage in their home environments. It seems obvious that due to their stake in this issue, they should be the ones drafting legislation about it. However, according to wizards, the communication barriers and the fact that merpeople cannot leave their home environment means that it is difficult for them to contribute to such legislation. This brings us to the question we shall try to answer today. What should the role of magical creatures be in deciding environmental policy at the Ministry for Magic? We can draw many similarities from this situation to our own political climate, where the people in charge are not the ones disproportionately affected by environmental issues. For example, the indigenous communities in Canada and the USA have time and time again been excluded from policy relating to construction happening on reservation land. The wizarding world unfriends wizards, which leads to legislation being drafted without nuance and the perspectives of major players. What steps do you think can be taken to politically involve these creatures, and what role should they have in deciding environmental policy? So that was the Tall Talk. It's better edited than the last one. This is because our editors weren't as lazy, of course. But okay, I have with me here a copy of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And it is very crucial to the question which we're talking about, which is how does legislation get drafted, and should it involve the people most affected by the issues, or should we maybe favor progress ahead of representation? So I have with me Mr. Capitalism and Miss Anti-Capitalism, Vedant, Varun, Vedant, and Avia. I'm sorry, Vedant. But okay. And we also have Prachi, obviously, I've not forgotten about you. But okay, let's start with Vedant maybe, since, I don't know, capitalism.
Okay.
What do you think? What should the role of minorities be in drafting legislation?
Okay, so first, don't term it like that, because you're making this like,
Sound
okay,
way
so
worse
yeah,
than it
exactly,
is.
sound
Than
way
it
worse.
actually
What I'm about to say is gonna sound way worse. So you have pixies, all right, and you've got humans, all right? There's a difference between pixies and humans, and minorities and majorities within humans, all right? So
Okay, let's focus on the pixies first, for like, I don't know, a sentence or two, and then go on to the crux of this, which should be the minorities.
well, I think the core point stays the same, and that is that groups that don't see the full picture, just because they can't see everything that's going on everywhere. They should be allowed to advise policymakers based on what they see, right? Because they're the ones that are on the ground. But in the end of the day, those that have a global, or I mean, as close as we can get to a global point of view, should be the ones making the policies.
But if your thing is about level of intelligence, then like,
It's
okay,
not
we're
level
not
of
saying that like
intelligence.
animals should be making rules, but like there are lots of animals, I mean, lots of creatures
Right.
with near human intelligence, like the mer people. I don't remember any others. I might have to check the book later. Centaurs.
Right.
Although centaurs don't like to be within being, because I think they said that their intelligence is above human level. either way, the point is, but those groups aren't represented in magical policy making either. So I
Well-
suppose, okay, let's move on. I don't want to put Vedant under the gun, you know? Let's go to Abia. What do you think?
I think that I see Vedant's point, in a way that, yeah, not everyone can see the full picture, but that isn't about like humans versus non-humans. I don't think that that's the correct way to look at it. I mean, even in a democracy, if everyone's voting, not everyone's voting from the same perspective. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. You know, not everyone can see the full picture, and that's okay. So my perspective about this is that all populations in the magical world that come under, you know, a certain category, maybe the
Should be represented.
should be represented, yeah.
But then do you think that at times maybe do you think at times the people, or let's say the creatures, the mer people, for instance, do you think that they could maybe hinder sort of the process, the progress which people make in terms of, you know, drafting new laws, creating, I don't know, better or different infrastructure, which might be needed for different people? Do you think that ultimately the people would be clashing with each other, the mer people and the wizards? Would it be worth, you know, sacrificing progress for a large group of people due to the wills of a much smaller population? So for an example, for a real world example, let's say I'm a private property owner and the government's like, I want to build a power cable here so that it can bring this power and electricity to a lot of villages. But then it has to be built on my land. Now completely ruin my land for me. Do you think that in this analogy, it would be appropriate for me if I was like a mer person and the villages were the wizards?
So here's what I will say. I think we can equate this kind of to a cross between what we have in like the legislative branch and the executive branch. And that is that we all can elect representatives that will help us do things. But at the end of the day, the decisions cannot be made, right? Yeah, but cannot be made by literally everybody that we have out there, right? Because more often than not, those people don't have the exposure that's required to change those policies. And so what we can have as a system over here is representatives of each magical world. And then when we bring this to the real world, we can have representatives of each nation going to a global organization and saying, hey, here's what we think should be done, and having a certain voting power. What that cannot mean, though.
Isn't that one?
Varun has just invented the UN.
I
Vedant, I'm sorry. This is like the 5th time today.
I
Now,
mean,
from
yeah.
now on, I'm going to do it on purpose.
All right.
I'm gonna like agree with you about this is what the UN is, and
It doesn't work so well.
it doesn't work,
exactly.
yeah. And I think it's not just about magical community, because from what I understand about the magical community, every single country has a minister for magic, right? And that isn't working so well either, because I mean, it's not just about the kind of like the ideas of just the witches and wizards, right? It's bigger than that, and there's more people involved in the magical community who potentially have a harder life than witches and wizards. So at least they can blend in, right? You can go to the muggle world as a witch or a wizard and
That's right. Yeah.
still be okay. But all of these magical creatures, you know, like the Veela, for example, or centaurs or mer people, they're in like danger of being harmed by muggles, and they also have absolutely no say in any decisions made by the government. So I think that rather than, I mean, I see a representative idea point, and I think rather than having it at like a national level, it be more
You're saying
about,
that people over progress, essentially.
Sort of. This is like every
Because
community should be having a representative.
because that is the perspective given by Ivan and Ved, who are saying that people should always be prioritized over so-called progress, and not only people, but biodiversity in general. But my
Why?
question now,
With people. I feel like, real progress is good for people also. So I
yeah,
kind of agree with Vedant's point, but I want to like take it the other way around. So we should have representatives who have knowledge in policy forming and city planning and that particular crisis. But majority of the decision makers should be from the community. And we should just have representatives with the expert knowledge to guide it in the right direction.
okay, but okay, so effectively these ideas work well on paper.
Yeah.
But my question is, to what extent? Okay, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here. This is a question to Vedant, to Abia, to Prachi, to everyone in the chat, both here and in Discord general, which I just realized I haven't been checking very often. I probably should do that if anyone has said anything there. Some people have. Let's see what they're saying. Okay, so the perspective we have from Discord is Yo by Miss Ratatouille. Well said. But getting back to my point, to what extent do we rely on, I suppose, magical cooperation? Because I'm sure there will be times when experts disagree. There will be times when the representatives disagree. The mer people and the wizards will disagree. The centaurs will disagree. The fairies or the pixies or whoever else will disagree. The villa will disagree. So my question is, right, how do we sort of cope when that thing happens? Because when you look at modern day political systems, right, there's so much, what's the word for it?
Conflict.
Filibustering. There's filibustering, there are like rigged votes, there are things like that, just designed to slow down legislation, to stop laws from coming into effect, to stop, I don't know, bills being passed, construction happening.
Basically, like if there's a disagreement, then nothing happens at all.
Exactly. And
That's
that's the system we've seen in a lot of countries, specifically the United States, because I mean, everyone knows about how bad it is with political rivalries there. But in situations like those, do you think we should prioritize something happening? The audience, Prachi, do any of you have any viewpoints on this?
Yeah, I feel like that's exactly what democracy is like. You just ensure that there are enough people to disagree, so that things do move slowly. But when something does happen, it's not like catastrophic. So I feel like it's sort of making a choice between slow growth, but not a disaster. So you're settling for slow growth, but you're also sort of ensuring that something that happens, whatever happens, doesn't lead to a disaster. And
Right.
also, like, some people have a point of view that billionaires giving out money to causes is a bad thing. And I think that that's sort of linked to the same issue, that if you don't have a knowledge of the grassroots, then even money and resources can be counterproductive. So I don't entirely agree with that point of view, but I feel like that's very closely linked to what we're discussing.
Yeah, I
So
think-
essentially that's how democracy works, you know, progress is slow, but it does happen. Opinions shift over time. Abia, I think you've had something to say about this in the past. Have you?
Yeah, I think in my opinion, disagreement is good. I think if there's ever a situation where people are not disagreeing with each other, that's kind of dangerous, because I mean, how do you justify a point of view if you're not open to justifying it against people who don't agree with you, right? And I think that what democracy does is, like Prachi mentioned, at least even if the progress is happening slowly, there isn't ever a situation where something happens and it's just like very disastrous to a lot of people.
But that does happen, don't you think? Many
I mean, like,
occasions.
I mean, look at, if you had an autocratic government, okay, look at the Ministry of Magic, for example. Didn't they pass a lot of legislation during Voldemort's reign that was really very terrible?
But I will cut in there and say what's incredibly fascinating about that is that they were not bad until external forces turned bad. And I think that really shows how the government of a society is reflective of external powers. And I'll just take the example of, for example, United Arab Emirates, right?
Mhm.
They're a monarchy, they're not a democracy, and they still manage to do well, I think. Here's what I think, because of the way their society is prospering right now.
Capitalism.
I'm not saying
No,
No,
capitalism.
I get your point. I think I mean, monarchies can go very bad, but whoever they have in power are good people or whatever, and that's,
Monarchies can either go very good or very bad.
yeah.
And if they're going very good, you can be sure that a few 100 years later, they're going to go very bad. So, yeah.
But is it not the same thing with democracies? Like we see democracies crash, and I mean,
Yeah, but at
Weird
least
things
in-
happen.
from
Yeah.
oligopolies, right? For example.
Moderately good and moderately bad. Yeah.
I suppose. so.
And there's still like the opportunity to course correct with
Yeah, that's
democracy,
fair.
right? You elect someone who's terrible, and then next term you're like, okay, you know what, that was a bad choice. Then you
You're
someone else.
out.
Yeah, you're out. So that you don't have that kind of potential in a monarchy, right?
I think we're getting a little off track.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
about to say that. So bringing this back from, what political system is best to just what the role of magical creatures should be. I think, are we all, I suppose, concluding that, are we all basically concluding that the voices of people are important? And even though progress can stagnate, it's still important that we prioritize people over progress. Now, of course, this isn't
mean-
like the correct view or anything, and there's a lot of room for debating. But I think that's a conclusion which we've come to.
Yeah.
And even within this conclusion, of course, there's a lot of, what ifs and the nuance required, exactly as Abia said. But I think it's time we draw this discussion to a close and we move on to the next vital part of the game show, which is the quiz. So I'm sure we've been accumulating points all show, I suppose. I was thinking of the correct word. But the quiz is the last chance you have to maximize your points. So what is the quiz? It's going to be about sort of the fusion of both pop culture topics and more real world issues. And of course, these are all objective answers and stuff. So yeah, you're all going to be competing. I think we've gotten the link in the chat from Ved Sanyal bracket CFR. I think you can all see it. I think Ved will now send me privately a link which I can use to look at what your scores are.
I think that's right.
Oh, okay. I think someone else is going to share their screen, then we're just going to watch that. But yeah. So can we get that going, backstage people? He just adjusted his position. It's like the real business now,
Mom? Mom?
Samara, if you could mute yourself. Okay, Zoom is trying to record us, fair enough. We're seeing people join the quiz. We've got Ritvik, Kiara, Arjun, Daksh, Chinmay, and the Carbon Footprint Reduction Project.
That's us.
Oh, that's us, of course. I mean, it's not us, it's someone else using the name, but yeah, it's them. And I don't know when the quiz is going to start, so I guess we'll let the backstage people decide that. Also, if the Carbon Footprint Reduction Project is taking part, I'm not exactly sure how we're going to be able to.
That's us. That's us.
What?
It's us.
Yeah, like if it's taking part in the quiz, I'm not sure how we're going to be able to see the leaderboard. We'll figure that out. Okay. Worst case, we'll just like make someone up. We'll try to be funny. I know it's going to struggle so far. It's okay. But yeah, we've got 7 people in the quiz, which is more than I was expecting. 8 people. Numbers just keep going up. This is incredible. And I'm sure He'll start whenever he wants. So yeah. The waiting begins, I suppose.
I heard a joke yesterday.
Mhm.
What?
Why the chicken crossroad?
Why?
To get to the other side.
That was not funny. I'm sorry. It
This
was-
is our standard, everyone. The capitalist way.
when marketability hinders progress.
Okay, Ivan is trying to join, but the connection is not so good on. It's okay. I hope you'll be able to join.
In that moment.
Meanwhile, we just like wait. Vedant, what did you say?
But I said, what?
I don't know what Vedant just said, but I'm gonna assume it was funny and witty and clever. As it is. Let's look at the leaderboards, shall we? Number one on the leaderboard is Unforgiven. He's tied with Miss Ruhi Sasta Grammarly. I love that name. Mr. Atomic, Mr. Athar, Miss Master Ghostamix, Way for God, and Asuniverse. We've got some very creative names in the chat.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
living for Sasta Grammarly. Actually.
Sasta Grammarly. We all love Grammarly. Actually, I hate Grammarly. It's one of my least favorite extensions.
No, so like one of my friends has Grammarly as an extension.
Is it actually useful on being able to
That
get
is
it?
depressing.
Is it actually useful on being able to getting it?
No,
No.
it's like
Okay.
actively unhelpful.
We're getting news that the quiz is starting. What?
It started, oh, am I on camera?
No, you're not.
So I didn't work exactly. You have to like stall.
Oh, okay. Everyone, we have to stall for time here while they fix the
The quiz.
quizzes. You
So I
know,
have a question for you. If
Yes.
climate change was happening in the Harry Potter world, who do you think would be like a climate denier? And who would be like
I
an
like this
advocate?
question
Yeah.
actually.
I mean, I think this kind of parallels with who was denying the return of like
Yeah.
Voldemort,
Ooh,
right?
fudge.
Percy.
Percy. No, but then Percy was just like effectively
I feel like
brainwashed.
Percy would
right?
be one of those people that says it's happening, but I'm also not gonna do anything about it because I like. my-
Because nothing matters.
Exactly.
He
No,
is
no,
that
but
type of
like,
guy.
don't you think that he was like denying the return of Voldemort? He went against his entire family and he was like, you know what, Voldemort is not returned. Shut up, let me have my ministry
But
job.
that was because like I mean, I feel bad for Percy because like his boss and like he was very close to the Minister for Magic as well, right? And in
Yeah.
fact, effectively that guy's telling him, that guy who he greatly respects is telling him that his family is all nuts. And to be fair, they are slightly nuts.
But I mean, I'd still like.
I don't know. If
Come
someone
on.
told you that your family was nuts, would you believe them?
That's a loaded question. Me and answer very carefully.
I'm not sure if my parents are watching. I'm not sure if my family is watching this right now. So I'm going to reserve my thoughts on that. Um, okay, we've got some other viewpoints. We've got Victor Crumb because he's from an icy place and for Hermione. I'm not sure what the and for Hermione thing means though, because I feel like Hermione would be like
A climate.
the creator,
advocate.
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
The creator of the magical world.
Yeah.
No, I think Lockhart.
What about
What?
Ron? What about Ron? He would just be like,
Would not know what climate change is.
I think Ron would
Yeah.
care because his friends cared.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
If it's, yeah.
Oh, would Harry care? Would Harry
I
care?
think Seamus Finnegan, you know, because like
Oh God,
the
that
thing he's
guy.
always
Wasn't
like,
he the one who got like really pissed about Harry?
Yeah, no, but is it Harry took a shot at his mom?
which
And,
like, yeah, that was a bit stupid.
I mean, they're all let's be fair. They were all teenagers.
he also doesn't have parents. so
We
I-
are teenagers. We can't like.
Yeah,
literally
but
make
it's
them-
true. Would we fight about something stupid? Let's be honest here. Okay.
Yeah, but like I wouldn't insult anybody's ass.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
never mind. Anyway, next question.
Yeah. Can I just say today I did not expect like the tech support of all people to get the quizzes wrong.
Yeah, seriously, tech support. What is going on right now?
Yeah, this is where we take our time to like.
Bully tech support.
Yeah, exactly.
They've been bullying us long enough.
No, it's like biting the hand that feeds you, you know.
Exactly.
Who else is gonna help you share your screen with me?
That is a fair point, you know.
You know, I have permission to like mute you. Like,
Would you do that now?
Yeah, tech support's reminding us that they can mute us. So
Yeah.
I
Blink
should have-
twice if you need help, Abhiya. Yeah, I'm not sure what we should talk about now. There's not much to stall about. Thanks, tech support.
So I
Thanks
wanna
everybody
know-
for joining today. Thanks.
I want to know what Prachi thinks about the question that she asked. Who do you think would be a climate denier?
A denier, I feel like most of, so here in the real world, I feel like just maybe, I don't know what percent, but climate deniers are a minority. I feel like in the
I
Harry
hope
Potter
so.
world, they would be majority, and just people who are fighting for it would be a minority. So I feel like most of them would be deniers.
That is an interesting point.
Well, it's also set in the 70s or 80s, right? Harry Potter.
When Exxon was the only one who.
Oh, okay, so
Where we shouldn't say this
everybody,
will be sued for defamation.
I don't know. I feel like majority of them would be. No, but then again, we do see Harry Potter set from like the perspective of
Of like a young radical
young
teenager.
radical teenagers. We don't know what kind of the old guard thinks about.
Yeah.
But
But I
we do
feel
like
that because I was very surprised with Harry Potter. There was no real conversations about like what the creatures suffered, and the only person who cared about Dobby was Hermione, and actually their rights. So I expected that by the end of the last books there would be some kind of a shift transition happening, but there was no real transition shown. So I feel like
Definitely showed the transition in some characters, like Harry and Ron, I think both started to care about like Creature and the house elves. Right. Like there's that scene where Ron tells the house elves to just save themselves if they want. And then there's a scene where the whole Creature thing,
Yeah.
they left it out of the movies, which I was really sad about, but
the movies left.
Creature was a
out,
big
though.
part of the books.
Yeah.
I think they show that at least in the main trio, right? Harry, Ron, Hermione. I think there's also that same message where in Umbridge, who was like the guy, the person who hated like
Oh, yeah.
half-breeds and stuff.
But even in that one, Harry and Hermione pretty much use the centaurs for their own bit. I mean, I don't see how they're any better than.
I mean, they tried to, and then the centaur said, no, we're gonna attack you as well, right? And
yeah.
then they have to fight their way out. So I'm not sure about that. I do think that
Hermione's activism was also a little bit, I think, not.
They were joking about it. I mean, they're
it
taunting.
was a
her.
bit stupid.
I mean, see,
She hid hats and hoped that an elf would
Yeah.
accidentally
I
pick
don't
it
know.
up.
I think that you should listen to the communities that you're trying to help, right? If they said that, okay, we don't want to be freed,
yeah.
why are you trying to
To free them, yeah.
But actually, I think that brings up a really important discussion because what happens to a community that is so, I mean, that's basically mental torture at that point.
No, but like if
Is
you're
it?
working with a good, like, okay, the Hogwarts elves,
Right.
I'm assuming that Dumbledore is cool.
He doesn't pay them.
No, he doesn't
Yeah,
say
okay.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, like, they
Oh,
have,
hey, Dobby.
he pays Dobby,
I
yeah.
mean, they have a house, they have food, they have their basic needs met. Okay, it's not
Yeah.
like they're suffering there, right?
Yeah, like Dobby and stuff.
Unlike, yeah, unlike say elves with the Malfoys or whatever. So like, I think that if she really wanted to save them or whatever, there were better places to start than just to be knitting hats for
Elves,
Hogwarts
yeah.
elves.
Okay,
But I
that's
feel
true.
like with most changes, it happens so that the people don't want that change initially in any kind of cultural shift. So yeah.
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
also there.
I also had a question about the wand, actually, kind of
Alright.
unrelated, but wizards have wands, right? I mean, everybody knows.
oh,
wizards have
wait,
wands.
what? They have a
So, okay,
what?
wizards have wands, right? And that's where most of their magic comes from, right? Like,
No.
They
That is not-
channel the magic.
they channel their magic. Imagine if I know this is like set, there's actually a huge theme in the books. If goblins were given wands, if who were we just talking about?
Elves.
Elves, right? Elves are already literally able to like
Teleport and
teleport
stuff.
themselves. Imagine, hey, you give these guys wands, what are they able to do? Right?
I mean, I think there was a war with goblins and wizards. And then after that war, wizards just banned goblins from having wands.
I
So I don't know if they're quite as good as you would assume, but
I think that kind of ties into our previous discussion of like representation, right? You also need to be
Yeah,
giving
definitely.
all communities involved like the right tools to
an equal like
Equal,
footing.
yeah. equal footing.
That's definitely true. But yeah,
But it's really reflected in the wizarding community's ideology, even when you like look at like how many people, I don't know what the real world equivalent is for this, but how many people are almost like diet racism, right? Like they don't show their racism or they're against muggleism or whatever
Mhm.
to everybody, but the moment the Ministry of Magic turned, you've just got this huge change being made. Like might is right, right? Where it shows the
Magic is might.
sorry, magic is might.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's also what I don't know if you remember this from the fifth book, but effectively the Black family, right? Sirius says that they weren't Death Eaters, but like they thought that Voldemort maybe had an idea, and then he started killing people, and they're like,
They were kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
well, oh well.
I mean, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
to us, but yeah, I think that's
What did Voldemort think about magical creatures? Was he for them? Did he?
I'm pretty sure he was like,
used them.
yeah,
he
a lot,
did use
lots of the creatures were shown to be against him, right?
But the giants, for example, actually, a lot of the creatures actually liked him because they thought like, hey, if it can't get much worse than this, and hey, if it's a good change, then it's a good change. You know?
no.
I think that's how the
It was-
giants definitely are shown.
It was not the enemy of our enemies,
Is our friend, yeah.
and they didn't like the current, whatever the current situation. So they thought that okay, this guy's opposing the
And-
current situation, so he is indirectly helping us.
I suppose
It's been
so.
a good idea actually for him to take the support of these creatures.
Yeah,
Yeah. But okay, I suppose the giants are also a bit more tribal in their sort of reasoning, right? Where they cared first and foremost for the safety of their tribe. But with that, I think we should bring this discussion to a slight close, right? So first of all, I think we're clearly not going to get the quiz done. Thank you, tech support. So I think it's time we phase this episode out. Thank you, Prachi, for taking the time out and joining us for this episode. We hope you had fun. We hope you
I
were
had a lot of fun. And all
I
of you are just so intelligent. And I feel like this discussion needs to reach many, many more people because it was brilliantly done.
Oh, it's good to hear. Makes it worth it, makes all the panic worth it. Thank you so much. The next episode of the game show is tomorrow, and it is about science fiction, more specifically space-oriented science fiction. We're going to be talking about Star Wars and Dune. I think I'm the only person who's going to talk about that. No one else knows that. Wally, one of the backstage members, is gesturing furiously that like, Wally, you have to mention Wally.
we like Wally. Okay, it's a good movie.
He likes Wally. I don't like Wally that much.
I think nobody likes tech support.
No, we are bullying you. But that is what we are going to talk about. If that sounds interesting, you should join. If that doesn't sound interesting, you should still join. Because
I love how people are like
place faith.
complimenting Wally in the chat. Weird.
Okay, fine. I get the message. We like Wally.
Yes, we
Okay.
like Wally.
Okay, fine. Next episode, I don't think Kavia's going to be there.
No, no.
Good riddance.
Ouch. That
No,
hurt.
I'm kidding. Abia was a very good guest. You can rate her performance out of 10 in the chat if you want. You can tell us who your favorite person was.
Yeah, guys, please
But-
pick me.
Come on.
Are you going to vote for the capitalist or like the
Okay,
anti-capitalist?
you're making
or
it
the
look
host?
bad right now. Okay.
They can see you, I think. No, wait, can they?
No, they
No.
can't.
Thank God, get your head
Wait,
down.
wait, can you get on camera?
Oh, no, they can.
Show you everybody.
No, Ved, what are you doing? Okay, either way, that is what we are gonna do tomorrow. If that sounds interesting, come. I think I'll be there. Vedant,
Vedant.
Vedant will be there. And yeah, it's gonna be fun. We'll force tech support to get the games and everything proper this time. Because we're very disappointed in them, of course. That's a joke, tech support. Don't worry.
Yeah, we love tech support.
I mean, love is a bit of a strong word. Tolerate.
We don't tolerate tech support. We
and all of
appreciate
the
them.
failings. Tech support next episode. You need to redeem yourselves. I hope you're ready. Oh, you could have told me to type that, Ved, but okay.
Oh my god. Okay.
Okay.
Like
That,
Muggle.
Muggle. That is it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. If you
Yeah, and
didn't,
Keep the discussion going in general.
keep the discussion going on the server. We hope to see, I'm sure, more people next time, more viewpoints in the chat. And And yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how else. What do you mean just ended?
Okay, so here is the heart of the book, because you can see you can't end the episode. But
Stop it.
But no, you're
Bye.
episode.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for joining. and
Thank
we
you,
will see
Prachi.
tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye, Dr.
Yeah,
Jagwa.
bye.
Bye.
Bye. Do I just leave? I don't know.
Yeah, let's leave.
You could have just said that.
Okay.
We are saying that.